Emma joins us from Indianapolis. He was at the State House today with the politicians in Indiana. So knowing the news that came out of Illinois and being there for the news that's coming out of Indiana, how do you see all of this, Emma?
It was really interesting to attend this Senate vote and to hear the perspectives of politicians from all across the state, from downstate in Indiana to Indianapolis here to several representatives in Northwest Indiana. And the vote's pretty clear, 45-4. I mean, they were all in favor, even some slightly dissenting opinions. See the favor in this, and there was a unity to it. There was a gleefulness. It felt like a pep rally at times. One senator ended his speaking moment by saying, "Go Bears." So they are very excited. And then the other factor here, which caught my attention, was I was under the impression through talking with multiple people around the State House today and around the Bears that this wouldn't be signed by the governor till tomorrow at the earliest. And he signed it about an hour after that vote was finished. So the governor here in Indiana is not wasting any time. They passed this near unanimously in the Senate in addition to the House a couple days ago. So they are all on board, and now we wait and see what the Bears want to do.
And in your mind, Emma, especially with how, to use your word, gleeful Indiana has been about this, the process that the Hoosier State is going through right now, we've seen the Bears and the state of Illinois at it for some years now, and here's Indiana, and they've come into this with this flurry of energy. It feels like it's been beneficial to the Bears, but does it feel legitimate? Is your sense that Indiana is truly in the running here?
I think so, and I've thought that all along, ever since December when the Bears expressed their interest in that letter from Kevin Warren saying that Northwest Indiana would be an option. And I still believe it's going to be Arlington Heights. I think the state of Illinois gets this done, and it's going to be Arlington Park. I think that's what the Bears would prefer. I think that's what officials in the state of Illinois would prefer. But look, the state of Indiana has put together a heck of a package, and the deliberation and everything in the state Senate. One of the senators discussing the idea of the taxes and how this would be paid off in 35 years is kind of the goal when these bonds are done. And there's an elder gentleman saying, well, I hope I'm looking down from heaven seeing those taxes are paid off. So those bonds are done. So there's a strong support here at the state capitol in Indiana for getting this thing across the finish line. And today was a significant day for the Bears, not only because what happened at the State House here 2 blocks from the NFL Combine, but also just getting something moving in Springfield and getting a 13-7 vote. Granted, not a strong vote, but for the mega project bill. And that sets up for potentially March 18th is the day to look at, when the hope is to get that on the floor at the Illinois House and start advancing that further. That's separate from the bill that the Bears are looking for infrastructure, $855 million to support the project at Arlington Heights. But they are across the finish line now here in Indiana and looking ahead to breaking ground in 2027, starting some of the work on that property in Hammond this year. And now it's up to Illinois and up to the Bears as to how they want to proceed forward.
So what did you hear from the people there in the State House in Indiana?
So one of the leaders of this bill is Senator Ryan Mishler, who's based out of South Bend. He was leading the processions there in the Indiana State Senate and speaking with several of his colleagues and debating back and forth. I spoke with him after. I want to present that. I've cut up a little bit of Ryan Mishler. So here he is talking about this bill, starting with the idea of how would the timeline take place for the Bears.
No, so from our end, once we pass that bill, I mean, there are some dates in there that people have to pass these taxes by a certain date. A lot of it depends on how soon they want to play in a new stadium. Because, I mean, if you wait a year, then you're going to be out another year. So I think it's really, the time frame is just, if they decide to do this, how soon do they want to do it? How soon do they want to be in a new stadium? And the only thing is, if it was delayed too long, we'd have to come back and change the dates, because there are some dates in there for these people to enact the taxes.
With George and Kevin Warren here for the Combine, have you met with them this week?
Had conversations this week.
What's the tone of those?
Well, I mean, conversations are always positive, right?
George is generally upbeat guy.
Yeah. I have to say, most of my have been with Mr. Warren. Regardless of what happens, I have to say, I really enjoyed talking to them. I mean, they've been very respectful and great to work with. Very personable, actually. sale.
Were you watching on this side in Illinois, the mega projects bill did not go to the House floor today?
I got to be honest with you. I don't really pay attention. To me, this isn't a competition with us in Illinois. I mean, for us, it's, the way we look at it, or me personally, is, this is something that we've worked out with them, and we know what we have, and if it's something they want, then they'll do it. For us, it's not a tit for tat kind of thing, you go this way, we go this way. It's just, I haven't really paid much attention to it. I've been really focused on what we're putting together with them, and we put our best foot forward, and we've got, I think, a really good final product out there. From what I understand about this mega projects bill, is basically about property taxes. And I mean, in Indiana, they wouldn't even pay property taxes. So, I mean, I don't know where the comparison is there. So, yeah. And I don't think that bill is just about the Bears either. I think that's about all big projects. Yeah. So, so it's not even really in line with what we're doing. So, I mean, the way I understand the mega projects. So, yeah.
So more of an apples to oranges sort of comparison.
Yeah, from what I understand, I don't want to be, I'm not an expert on what they're doing, but what I've read about the mega projects, because that's been out there for a while, it just gives the locals the ability to negotiate property taxes. Well, the way we structure our stadiums, they don't pay property tax.
Okay, I mean, it's interesting hearing the state senator talk about that, and there's still a lot of work to do. I think Indiana has done a great job of framing this as if, they're open for business and everything's fine. There's still a lot of surveying that has to be done on the Hammond site alone, let alone the fact that there are people like, no, come to Portage. No, come to Gary. So I think that they have done a more effective job than the Illinois contingent of being like, hey, this thing's almost done, when in reality, it's not.
They do have the advantage of stepping in to edit as opposed to being the ones making kind of the initial offer of the situation.
Correct.
And a key point there, guys. I mean, you heard from Senator Mishler talking about they would be able to break ground in 2027. That means there's still a lot of work to do. To your point, Lawrence, like they still have plenty of work to do on that site in Hammond in 2026, which they can get started immediately. The Bears own the property in Arlington Heights. They can put shovels in the ground when they're ready. And that's the key point here of this timeline, is that Indiana has the legislation set, but not the property set. Illinois does not have the legislation set, but the property's there at Arlington Heights. So it's a matter of how the Bears want to proceed. I'm sure you read off both statements. The Bears lauded both Illinois and Indiana in separate statements, but they were non-committal. And now we see where the Bears go from here. Again, the key date is March 18th, which is when the hope is to get this on the floor, the mega project bill, and the Illinois House floor, and start advancing that. My understanding is it shouldn't be too much of a hurdle in terms of the infrastructure, because the governor's already hinted that he's willing to pledge that kind of support for the Bears and the property at Arlington Park. So, look, I've talked to so many people now, Illinois and Indiana, with this, in addition to plenty of conversations with people around the Bears. I still see it leaning heavily toward Arlington Heights at this point.
Okay, so now let's talk about the real reason that you're there. Sure, you're upping your political bona fides, and also, why were the Dudley boys in your meeting? Why did I hear someone say, "Devon, get the table," with all that noise that was going on in the background? But as far as the football goes with the Bears, what's been interesting as far as the combine goes?
Well, I'll give you this little nugget here, because I walked out to take a phone call from somebody I was hoping to hear from after this Senate meeting, and I was walking through the hallway of a hotel and almost got ran over by a prospect practicing his 40. So it kind of reminded me what I'm really here for. It is for the football side more so than the state Senate side. And look, the Bears have been busy. We heard Ryan Poles a couple days ago setting the scene for this offseason of they've got to figure out a lot of things. And you got a sense of his lean in terms of players who are either cap casualty candidates or trade candidates. And Tremaine Edmonds, we know, is being shopped, is somebody who's given permission to seek a trade. DJ Moore, I think the Bears would love to move him in his contract. Ryan Poles is a busy man. I'm sure he's taking a lot of phone calls, talking with different agents and different executives around the league and price shopping because by this point, the past few years, the Bears have made their cap casualty cuts and moved on. And they're trying to get a sense of who they could trade away to either move significant contracts or just get something back in the case of a Tremaine Edmonds. So I think we're going to see a lot of action here before March 11th and the start of that late new year. You're going to get some restructuring in that time as well. But the writing's on the wall for some of these guys. Tremaine Edmonds is most likely not going to be a Bear going into the league new year. He's either going to be traded. At this point, I think a release is more likely because the writing's on the wall in that case. And DJ Moore, I think there's going to be a market, but it's a tough contract to move. And wishful thinking for the Bears, I think it's a position at wide receiver where they're plenty comfortable, but also, again, it's just going to be a tough needle to thread in terms of making that deal.
When you look at the roster situation the Bears are in at the moment, it's one thing for Ryan Poles to say we're just going to draft the best player available, as most people do end up claiming, but what is the legitimate desire the Bears have? What is the position that they should be targeting at 25?
In a perfect world, you're getting a tackle, a D tackle, or an edge rusher at 25. And this is a draft that's deep in all three of those spots. I talked with Caden McDonald out of Ohio State yesterday, and just hearing the way he speaks about how he plays and obviously matching that up with the tape and what you see of him, that's your three technique. That's your D tackle who can be disruptive in the run game and bully through in the passing game. Cassius Haugh, well, I don't know if he's going to be there at 25, the edge rusher out of Texas A&M, but that guy had 11 and a half sacks last season playing at a high level for a defense that made the playoff. That is a guy you would love to see in a Bears uniform. I'm going to learn more about these tackles in the coming days as they start getting into Indianapolis, but you're hoping for a guy like a Caden Proctor out of Alabama to fall for you there. You've got some really intriguing options in terms of matching positional need with the best player available. And Ryan Poles seemed really excited about this draft, even picking at 25 as opposed to the top 10. You want to be at the bottom of the first round. And he sees the opportunity to get some impact players there. There's a genuine excitement about the idea of filling some needs on your roster with the best player available who falls to you there.
How weird is it to be, I mean, this is now 2 years in a row, but with the Bears kind of knowing that they have the guy at quarterback and that's not even a thought of when you're walking into the combine. Maybe you find someone to at some point replace Tyson Bagent, but the Bears being able to run a combine where the quarterback position is not something that they're stressed about.
Yeah, I've run into some of my colleagues who cover the Steelers. What are they going to do at quarterback and scramble? I got to talk to this guy. Maybe they'll trade for that guy. And some of my colleagues who cover the NFC North teams oh, man, the Bears are good right now, and they're in a good spot. It's weird to be down here in Indianapolis and the house isn't on fire for the Bears. I remember a couple years ago in 23 when they were shopping that number one pick, and you're wondering when it's going to happen. And then 2 years ago when Caleb spoke for the first time at the combine, and you're wondering about the other quarterbacks. And it's a great position to be in, and more so here. Ryan Poles a couple days ago talking about they're starting to build those models for a contract extension. And it's a long way away. You need to see plenty from Caleb in his third season, but that's notable. You're starting to form those books and forecast your future around the fact that Caleb Williams is your budding franchise quarterback. And this is the make or break year that's going to really decide, is he going to get that top dollar, paid like a franchise quarterback? And that's a luxury you want in the NFL. You want to be paying your guy that kind of top dollar and dealing with the struggles around it because you got the quarterback, and that's all that matters in the league. And the Bears are in a really wonderful position here looking ahead toward the future.
For Ryan Poles, he went through what seemed like a pretty effective process of tearing down the roster, creating some cap space in the initial seasons. And he's had some of those big spends. Some of them have been players who've been really effective that might be moving on, and others maybe haven't been as effective as they'd like. But now there's less money available at the moment. Do you feel like the process that Poles has gone through in shaping the roster up to this point, does it make him, even though he can't be as nimble right now with less money to spend, but does it make him more capable right now of threading the needle he's going to have to thread for what feel like maybe the last remaining pieces to truly have this roster set up correctly?
Yeah, but the term he used, which I really liked, was the combination of players, which obviously references the salary cap and your ability to stack the roster the right way. And that's why somebody like DJ Moore, as much as the Bears love him, is a candidate for a trade because he's making north of $23 million each of the next 4 seasons. That's a lot of money when you're feeling really comfortable at wide receiver, what Ben Johnson can do in the passing game. So DJ Moore is a player you're willing to move on from because you've got needs on the D line. You've got needs in the secondary. You've got two safeties who are free agents, and you got an all-pro corner, Nashawn Wright, who you've got to make a decision on. You want to get that flexibility back heading into the new year where you can make these decisions comfortably. And that's why instead of making just a bunch of cuts and restructures, Ryan Poles is trying to get everything he can back for it while he's got this window of time to negotiate trades. So I think he's handling it really well. But then you look at some of these needs, and D-line is the one that keeps jumping out to me. I asked Ryan a couple days ago about the idea of, do you need to just overhaul that group like you did the O-line last year? And he said, well, we can't really do that because of the salary cap right now. And he also pointed to some of the injuries they had in terms of, let's give it a chance and see how an Austin Booker comes through when he's got a fully healthy season and what Dayo Odeyingbo can do once he's back to form. And they feel comfortable a lot of spots in these roster, but that salary cap flexibility is going to be critical. And first and foremost, they got to get under the cap. That's the number one objective before March 11th. But how much money can you get back? Do you want to take that big swing? I don't think so. I think this is going to be a prudent, almost boring offseason in a way where they're just addressing needs properly and looking towards the future, feeling really confident about where Ben Johnson and Caleb Williams can take them.
Emma, exceptional work down there, both on the political side and on the Bears side. We appreciate you. Thanks for being on the show.
Take care.